The small research ship broke through the thick clouds of planet Tundra. Dr. Kim Sun looked out the window at the endless white landscape below. This frozen world would be her home for the next year. She breathed deeply, trying to calm her racing heart. "Landing in 5 minutes, Dr. Kim," said the pilot. "Weather conditions are getting worse. The storm is coming faster than expected." Sun nodded, her eyes fixed on the horizon where massive dark shapes moved slowly across the snow. Even from this height, the war mammoths were easy to spot, bigger than any earth elephant, with thick red-brown fur and curved tusks that gleamed like metal in the fading light. "There they are," she whispered to herself. "The last living weapons of the Arcturus Empire." The ship landed with a soft thud on a flat area near a rocky outcrop. Sun had chosen this spot carefully, close enough to observe the mammoth herds, but far enough not to disturb them. Or so the Academy thought. Sun had different plans. As the landing ramp lowered, the bitter cold hit her face. Even through her thermal suit, she could feel the bite of the wind. The storm was getting closer. Dark clouds rolled across the sky, heavy with snow. "Final equipment check complete, Dr. Kim," said Li Do, her assistant for the setup phase. "The habitat modules are secure. Power systems are online. Communications array is functional, though the storm may cause some interference." "Thank you, Do," Sun said, pulling her hood tighter. "You and the crew should leave before the storm hits. I'll be fine here." Do frowned. "Are you sure you want to stay alone? The Academy sent me to help with the first month of research." Sun shook her head. "The Academy follows old rules. True understanding requires solitude. The mammoths will be more likely to accept one human than many." Do looked worried but didn't argue. He'd worked with Sun long enough to know her mind was made up. "The supply drop is scheduled for every 30 days, he reminded her. "If you need anything sooner, use the emergency beacon." "I know the protocols," Sun said, softer this time. "Thank you for your concern." Within an hour, the ship was gone, rising through the darkening sky until it was just a small dot that vanished into the clouds. Sun stood alone outside her habitat, watching as the first snowflakes began to fall. The research station consisted of 3 connected domes made of a strong, clear material that could withstand the harsh tundra weather. Inside, Sun had everything she needed: labs, living quarters, and storage for supplies. Large windows gave her a 360-degree view of the surrounding landscape. As night fell and the storm grew stronger, Sun sat at her desk, reviewing her research plan. The Academy wanted data on mammoth migration patterns, feeding habits, and social structures, all observed from a safe distance. "Observe but never interfere," Sun read aloud from the Academy guidelines. She closed the file with a sigh. "How can I truly understand them if I only watch from afar?" Sun had spent her career studying alien life forms across the galaxy. Her methods were often criticized as too risky, too involved. But they got results. Her papers on the hive minds of Proxima Centauri had changed how scientists understood collective intelligence. The war mammoths of Tundra were different from any species she had studied before. Created centuries ago by the Arcturus Empire as biological weapons, they had been abandoned when the empire fell. Somehow, they had survived, adapted, and formed their own society. Most scientists believed the mammoths were just animals with basic intelligence. Sun wasn't convinced. There were stories from the few traders who visited Tundra, stories about mammoths showing signs of culture, of memory, of something more. That night, Sun could hardly sleep. The storm howled around her habitat, rattling the structure despite its anchors. She lay awake thinking about the mammoths out there in the cold, wondering how they sheltered from such storms. Morning brought clear skies and blinding white landscapes. Sun put on her cold weather gear and stepped outside with her equipment. The air was so cold it hurt to breathe. She set up her long-range scanners and began her first official day of observation. Through her binoculars, she spotted a herd about 2 kilometers away. 25 mammoths moving slowly through the snow, using their curved tusks to dig for the moss and lichens that grew beneath the surface. Sun recorded everything. taking notes on their behavior, their formation, the way. The largest mammoth led the others. For 3 days, she followed the same routine: observe, record, analyze, always keeping her distance as required by Academy rules. On the 4th day, the routine broke. Sun was tracking a smaller group of mammoths that had separated from the main herd when she noticed something strange. One mammoth, smaller than the others, was lagging behind. Even from a distance, she could see it was struggling to walk. Through her binoculars, Sun saw the problem. The young mammoth had a deep cut on its leg, possibly from the sharp ice formations that dotted the landscape. The wound was leaving a trail of dark blood on the white snow. The other mammoths trumpeted loudly, calling to the injured one, but they kept moving. Sun knew why. In this harsh environment, the herd couldn't slow down for one injured member. It was nature's way, but it wasn't Sun's way. She hesitated, the Academy rules echoing in her mind. Never interfere with the natural behaviors of the subject species. Another look through her binoculars showed the young mammoth had fallen to its knees, its trunk raised in what looked like a cry for help. Sun made her decision. She loaded her medical kit into her small transport sled and headed toward the injured mammoth. As she got closer, she could see it was even younger than she thought, probably not more than a few years old. The mammoth saw her approaching and tried to stand, trumpeting in alarm. Sun stopped the sled 50 meters away and continued on foot, moving slowly. "It's okay," she said softly, knowing the mammoth couldn't understand her words but might respond to her tone. "I want to help you." The young mammoth watched her with intelligent eyes, wary but too weak to run. Sun moved closer, step by step, holding out her empty hands to show she carried no weapons. When she was just 10 meters away, the mammoth made a low rumbling sound, not aggressive but questioning. Sun stopped and crouched down, making herself appear smaller. "You're hurt," she said gently. "Let me help." For a long moment, they stared at each other. Human and mammoth, two species that had never meant to meet. Then slowly the mammoth lowered its head, as if giving permission. Sun approached carefully, her heart pounding. This close, she could see the mammoth's thick fur was a deep russet color, its eyes a warm brown. The cut on its leg was deep but clean, treatable. As Sun began to clean the wound, she whispered, "I'll call you Tay. It means great in my language, and you are great to trust me like this." Tay stood still as Sun worked, watching her with curious eyes that seemed too knowing for a simple animal. Neither of them saw the recording drone circling high above, sending images back to the Academy. Images of the famous Dr. Kim Sun breaking the most important rule of xenobiological research on her very first week. But by then, Sun wouldn't have cared. She had made contact. 6 months had passed since Sun's first meeting with Tay. The young mammoth's leg had healed well, leaving only a faint scar under the thick russet fur. What had begun as a medical emergency had grown into something no scientist had achieved before: a true bond between human and war mammoth. The Academy had been furious when they saw the drone footage of Sun treating Tay. Her research supervisor, Dr. Lee, had sent angry messages demanding she return to proper observation protocols. Sun had listened politely, promised to be more careful, and then continued exactly as she planned. "They don't understand," she told Tay one morning, as they walked together across the snowy plain. "The old ways of watching from a distance will never tell us who you really are." Tay made a low rumbling sound that Sun had come to recognize as agreement. The young mammoth stood taller now, nearly 4 meters at the shoulder, though still small compared to the adults of the herd. Each day, Sun recorded her observations in her journal. Not just dry facts about migration patterns and feeding habits, but detailed notes about mammoth communication, social structures, and what she was beginning to recognize as culture. The war mammoths use at least 30 distinct sounds, she dictated into her recorder as she watched Tay interact with 2 other young mammoths nearby. But the sounds are just part of it. Body language, trunk gestures, Even scent markers left on rocks and trees form a complex language. Through Tay, Sun had gradually been accepted by a small part of the herd. Not all the mammoths trusted her. Many of the older bulls kept their distance, but they no longer fled when she approached. Some even seemed curious about her. Auntie. This morning, Sun was particularly excited. Tay had been acting differently since dawn, making soft trumpeting calls and nudging Sun toward the east, away from their usual path. "What is it, Tay? What do you want to show me?" Sun asked, following the mammoth's lead. They walked for nearly an hour, crossing a frozen river and climbing a gentle slope. At the top of the hill, Sun saw a sight that took her breath away. In a sheltered valley below, hundreds of war mammoths had gathered, far more than she had ever seen in one place. "It's a gathering of herds," she whispered in awe. Just like the old trader stories said, Tay made an impatient sound and continued, down the slope. Sun followed carefully, her heart racing with excitement and a touch of fear. She had never been among so many mammoths before. As they reached the edge of the gathering, several large mammoths turned to look at them. Sun froze, suddenly aware of how small and fragile she was compared to these massive creatures. One wrong move, one misunderstood gesture, and she could be crushed without intention. A mammoth larger than any Sun had seen before separated from the group and approached them. Its tusks were longer than Sun was tall, curved and marked with deep grooves. Battle scars showed clearly on its face and sides, telling of a long life of struggles. Tay made a series of soft rumbles and moved slightly in front of Sun, as if introducing her. The large mammoth stopped just meters away, its trunk extending toward Sun. She stood perfectly still, fighting the urge to step back. The mammoth's trunk gently touched her face, then withdrew. It made a deep sound that Sun felt more than heard, vibrating through the ground beneath her feet. "Hello," Sun said softly. "I am honored to meet you." The mammoth regarded her with eyes that seemed too wise, too knowing for any animal. Then it turned and walked back toward the gathering, pausing once to look back at them. Tay nudged Sun forward. The message was clear. Follow. That day changed everything Sun thought she knew about the war mammoths. The gathering wasn't random. It was a council, a meeting of different herds to share information about food sources, weather patterns, and potential dangers. The large mammoth, whom Sun named Hana, was a matriarch, a leader of leaders. Through careful observation and with Tay's help, Sun began to understand the complex social structure of mammoth society. "They remember," she recorded in her journal that night, her hands still shaking with excitement. "They have an oral history passed down through generations. Today I watched as Hana used sounds, trunk movements, and even drawings in the snow to tell a story to the younger mammoths. The story, as Sun understood it, was about the mammoths' origins, how they had been created long ago by beings who came from the sky, the Arcturus Empire, though the mammoths had their own name for them. How they had been made for war, trained to fight, only to be abandoned when their creators left the planet. They remember being weapons," Sun wrote, "but they've chosen to be something more." Dr. Park Jin arrived a week after the gathering. The Academy had sent him to evaluate Sun's research, and Sun suspected to rein her in. Park was a respected xenobiologist with a strict adherence to Academy protocols. His face showed his shock when he saw Tay waiting outside the habitat dome. "What have you done, Sun?" he asked, keeping his distance from the young mammoth. "This is a complete violation of non-interference directives." "I've made a breakthrough," Sun replied calmly. "The war mammoths aren't just animals, Jin. They're people. They have language, culture, history." Park shook his head. "You've always pushed boundaries, but this is too far. You're projecting human qualities onto them because you've become emotionally attached." "I'm seeing them clearly because I've become close enough to understand," Sun countered. "Come with us tomorrow, see for yourself." Park reluctantly agreed. The next morning, Sun introduced him to Tay, showing him how to approach without appearing threatening. The young mammoth was cautious, but accepting of the new human. They spent the day with a small group of mammoths who had grown used to Sun's presence. Park watched in disbelief as Sun communicated with them using a combination of sounds and gestures she had learned. It's still not proof of true sentience, Park argued, as they returned to the habitat that evening. Mimicry and learned behaviors don't equal intelligence on our level. What would convince you, Sun asked. Language? Tool use? They have both in their own way. Before Park could answer, his communicator beeped. He checked the message and frowned. There's a distress call from the mining survey team on the southern continent. Their transport crashed in a storm, and they need medical assistance. He looked at Sun. I should go. I'm the closest qualified person. Sun nodded. Of course. Take the emergency shuttle. I'll be fine here. Are you sure? I might be gone for several weeks. Sun smiled and glanced at Tay, who was waiting patiently, outside. I'm not alone. After Park left, Sun returned to her research with renewed purpose. She needed to gather clear, scientific evidence of mammoth intelligence before Park returned. Evidence even the strictest Academy scientist couldn't dismiss. What she didn't know was that the distress call would lead to complications far beyond academic disagreements. The mining survey team had found something on the southern continent, something that would soon threaten everything Sun had discovered about the war mammoths and their way of life. As the twin suns of Tundra set that evening, Sun sat beside Tay, on a hilltop watching the stars appear in the clear, cold sky. We're making progress, she told the young mammoth. Soon everyone will understand you as I do. Tay made a soft sound and turned her massive head toward the southern horizon, as if sensing the danger that was coming from that direction. The first sign of trouble came 3 weeks after Park left. Sun was teaching Tay how to draw symbols in the snow when she heard it, a deep rumble that shook the ground. It wasn't the sound of mammoth feet or the cracking of ice. This was the sound of engines. What is that? Sun said, standing up and scanning the horizon. Tay raised her trunk, testing the air. The young mammoth made a worried sound that Sun had never heard before. In the distance, black dots appeared in the sky, growing larger as they approached. Sun pulled out her binoculars and focused on the shapes. Transport ships, 5 of them, much bigger than research or supply vessels. We should get back to the habitat, Sun told Tay. Something isn't right. By the time they reached Sun's research station, the ships were landing 2 kilometers away on a flat stretch of ice. Sun watched through her observation window as the vessels touched down. Large doors opened, and machines rolled out onto the snow, drilling equipment, ground transports, prefabricated shelter units. Sun's communication system beeped with an incoming message. She pressed the receive button, and a man's face appeared on the screen. Dr. Kim Sun, I am Director Moon of Nova Extraction. Our records show you are the only registered researcher in this region. We are setting up a mining operation and wanted to introduce ourselves. Sun felt a chill that had nothing to do with Tundra's cold. Nova Extraction was one of the largest mining corporations in the galaxy, known for efficient resource gathering and for not letting anything stand in their way. This is a protected research zone, Sun said. Any industrial activity needs approval from the Galactic Science Academy. Director Moon smiled, but his eyes remained cold. We have all the necessary permits, Doctor. The Southern Survey team found rich mineral deposits across this continent. This planet is about to become very valuable. I'll send you our documentation. The screen went blank. Sun checked her files and found Moon had indeed sent permits and approvals. They looked official, but something felt wrong. Nova Extraction had moved too quickly, too secretly. That night, Sun couldn't sleep. She sat at her desk, reviewing what she knew about Tundra's legal status. The planet was categorized as uninhabited, which meant corporations could apply for mining rights if they proved their operations wouldn't damage unique ecosystems. But Tundra isn't uninhabited, Sun said to herself. The mammoths are people. In the morning, Sun decided to see the mining operation up close. She took her small transport sled and headed toward the Nova Extraction camp. Tay wanted to follow, but Sun insisted the mammoth stay behind. I'll be safer alone, she explained. Humans can be dangerous when something valuable is involved. The mining camp was already fully operational. Workers in heavy suits moved between buildings while large machines bored into the ice. Sun was stopped at the perimeter by security guards who called for Director Moon. Moon met her outside, his breath making clouds in the cold air. He was a tall man with sharp features and a smile that never reached his eyes. Dr. Kim, welcome to our humble operation. What can I do for you? Your mining plan, Sun said, getting straight to the point. It covers the main migration path of the war mammoths. You can't drill there. Moon raised an eyebrow. The mammoths. They're just animals, Doctor. They'll adapt and find new routes. They're not just animals, Sun argued. They're intelligent beings with language, culture, and rights. Moon's face hardened. Unless they've been officially recognized as sentient under galactic law, they have no legal rights, and recognition requires years of research and review. Then I'll start the process, Sun said firmly. Until it's complete, you must avoid the mammoth territories. Time is money, Doctor, Moon replied. The markets won't wait for academic debates about animal intelligence. We begin full operations in 3 days. Sun returned to her habitat and sent urgent messages to the academy, to Park, to anyone who might help. The responses were all the same. Bureaucratic delays, requests for more evidence, promises to look into the matter. On the 3rd day, Nova Extraction moved their main drilling platform to the edge of a valley the mammoths used as a sheltered feeding ground. Sun watched in horror as a herd of mammoths approached, unaware of the danger. When the mammoths came within 1 kilometer of the mining equipment, a high-pitched sound filled the air. The sonic deterrent system was designed to drive away wildlife without physical harm. The mammoths reacted immediately, trumpeting in distress and confusion. Sun couldn't stand by and watch. She jumped into her transport sled and raced toward the scene. By the time she arrived, the mammoths were in full retreat except for one who had fallen in the chaos. It was one of the elders, an old female who had been too slow to escape the painful sound waves. "Turn it off," Sun shouted as she leaped from her sled. "You're hurting them." A security officer moved to block her path, but Director Moon waved him aside. "Dr. Kim, this is a restricted area. You're interfering with authorized operations." Sun pointed to the fallen mammoth. "That creature is suffering needlessly. Let me help her." Moon sighed. "Very well. Pause the deterrent system." The awful sound stopped. Sun rushed to the elder mammoth, checking for injuries. The mammoth was breathing heavily but seemed physically unharmed. Sun stroked her trunk gently, making soft sounds to calm her. "See? No permanent damage," Moon said. "We've studied the mammoth's physiology. The sound is uncomfortable but harmless." "You don't understand what you're doing," Sun said, her voice shaking with anger. "These aren't simple animals. The sound doesn't just hurt their ears, it disrupts their communication. It's like psychological torture. Your dedication to your research subjects is admirable, Doctor, but misplaced," Moon replied. "Now please leave the area so we can resume operations." "I'll file an emergency protection order," Sun threatened. "The Galactic Council will shut you down." For the first time, Moon's false politeness vanished. "By the time any order is processed, we'll have established our primary extraction sites. The laws favor those who act first, Doctor. You should know that." As security officers escorted Sun back to her transport, she realized how powerless she was against Nova Extraction's resources and political connections. She needed evidence, undeniable proof of mammoth intelligence that would force the Galactic Council to act. That evening, a mammoth trumpeting caught Sun's attention. She looked outside to see Tay and, surprisingly, Hana, the matriarch, waiting near the habitat. Sun went out to them, confused by their presence so close to her home. Hana made a series of low rumbles and movements with her trunk. Sun didn't understand everything, but the message was clear enough. The mammoths knew about the mining operation and they were worried. "I'm trying to stop them," Sun told Hana. "But I need proof that you can think, that you remember, that you have culture. The humans need to see what I see." Hana regarded Sun with those knowing eyes. Then, slowly, deliberately, The great mammoth used her trunk to draw symbols in the snow. Symbols similar to the ones Sun had taught Tay, but different, older. "You have writing," Sun whispered in amazement. "Your own writing system," Hana made another sound and looked toward the Nova extraction camp. The message couldn't have been clearer. Time was running out. That night, Sun discovered her communications had been jammed. She couldn't send messages off-planet. Nova extraction was making sure no help would arrive before they established their operation. "Then we'll have to help ourselves," Sun said, looking at Tay, who had refused to leave her side. "We need to gather evidence and find a way to broadcast it to the galaxy." What Sun didn't know was that Nova extraction had already begun more aggressive plans. Director Moon had decided that the mammoths were an unacceptable obstacle to the mining schedule. In the morning, they would begin using more than just sound to clear the mammoths from the mineral-rich valleys. The war was about to begin. Dawn broke cold and clear over the icy plains of tundra. Sun stood outside her habitat, watching as a group of mammoths gathered nearby. Not just Tai and Hana, but 15 others, representatives from different herds across the region. They had come because Hana had called them. "This is our only chance," Sun said to the assembled mammoths. "Nova extraction will not stop. We must work together." She had spent the night converting her research equipment into a visual translation system. Using images and symbols projected onto the snow, she could now communicate more complex ideas to the mammoths. The system wasn't perfect, but it was enough. The mammoths watched intently as Sun showed them maps of the mining operation and the planned expansion areas. These areas covered key feeding grounds and migration routes. If Nova extraction succeeded, the mammoths would lose their best food sources and sheltered valleys. Hana stepped forward, her massive form casting a long shadow across the snow. Using trunk gestures and the symbol system Sun had begun to understand, the matriarch made her position clear. The mammoths would defend their land, not through direct confrontation, Sun warned, showing images of Nova extraction's weapons. "They have tools that can hurt you from a distance. We need to be smarter." Together, they formed a plan. The mammoths knew the land better than any scanner, could map it. They knew where the ice was thin, where hidden caves could provide shelter and surprise routes, where the snow could be made to slide down slopes. As they finished planning, a small transport appeared on the horizon. Sun recognized it immediately. The emergency shuttle Dr. Park had taken weeks ago. "Park is back," she told Tay. "Maybe he can help us." The shuttle landed near Sun's habitat. Park stepped out, looking tired and troubled. Sun ran to meet him. "Jin, I'm so glad you're back. Nova extraction is trying to drive the mammoths away. We need to stop them." Park's face remained serious. "I heard about the mining operation. That's why I rushed back." He paused, looking at the gathered mammoths. "Sun, we need to talk. Alone." Inside the habitat, Park told Sun what he had learned at the southern mining camp. The mineral deposits on tundra weren't just valuable. They were essential for new, faster-than-light drive technology. The Galactic Council had classified the mining operation as a priority project. "They're not going to stop for the mammoths, Sun, no matter what evidence you have." "Then we'll need to fight harder," Sun said firmly. "I've discovered more proof of their intelligence. They have a writing system, Jin. They remember their history." Park shook his head. "You don't understand. Nova extraction is just the beginning. If they find enough of the mineral, the entire planet will be open for mining." "Then help me protect them," Sun pleaded. "With 2 scientists supporting their case." "I can't," Park interrupted. "I've been ordered to shut down your research and return you to the academy." Sun stared at him in disbelief. "You wouldn't." "They're offering a compromise," Park continued, not meeting her eyes. "Nova extraction will establish protected zones for the mammoths away from the mining areas. They'll be relocated humanely." "Relocated? Jin, this is their home. Their culture is tied to this land, these specific migration routes. They'd lose everything that makes them who they are." Park finally looked at her. "I made a deal, Sun. I gave Nova extraction your research data to help them understand mammoth behavior patterns. In exchange, They've promised minimal harm to the creatures and a senior research position for both of us studying the relocated herds. Sun felt as if the ground had dropped away beneath her feet. You betrayed them. You betrayed me. I saved what could be saved, Park argued. The alternative was total displacement with no protections at all. This way, at least some of the mammoths will survive. Get out, Sun whispered. Get out of my habitat. Park sighed. You have until tomorrow to gather your personal belongings. The Academy has revoked your research permit. After Park left, Sun sat alone trying to think through her options. Without official standing, she had even less power against Nova extraction. But she couldn't abandon the mammoths. A soft trumpeting outside drew her attention. Tay was waiting, somehow sensing Sun's distress. The young mammoth's presence reminded Sun of what was truly at stake. Not academic recognition or mining profits, but the future of an entire people. We'll still fight, she told Tay, stroking the mammoth's trunk. But now we need a new plan, that night. Sun used what was left of her equipment to document everything she knew about mammoth intelligence and culture. She recorded Hana drawing symbols, mammoths using simple tools to dig for food, the complex greetings between herd leaders. If she couldn't stop the mining immediately, she would build a case for the future. At dawn, the first attack came. Nova extraction, using Park's information about mammoth movement patterns, sent machines to block a key passage through the hills that the herds used to reach their feeding grounds. Sun watched through binoculars as mammoths from Hana's herd approached. The blockade. Instead of retreating from the mining machines and their sonic weapons, the mammoths split into smaller groups and took different routes. Paths Sun had helped them plan. They're learning, she whispered proudly. Throughout the day, similar scenes played out across the region. When Nova extraction moved to clear an area, the mammoths seemed to melt away, only to reappear elsewhere. They were using guerrilla tactics, disrupting the mining operation without direct confrontation. Director Moon was not pleased. Sun intercepted a communication between Moon and his security chief. I don't care how intelligent these beasts supposedly are, Moon's angry voice said through the static. Clear them from the primary extraction site. Use whatever force necessary. Sir, that would violate council regulations on protected species, the security chief replied. These creatures aren't officially protected yet, Moon snapped. And if Dr. Kim's evidence disappears along with her troublesome mammoths, they never will be. Make it look like an accident. Sun's blood ran cold. Moon wasn't just planning to displace the mammoths. He was willing to kill them. She had to warn Hana. And the others. Taking only essential supplies and her research records, Sun left her habitat and headed for the meeting place they had established in a hidden valley. She was halfway there when she heard engines behind her. A Nova extraction security transport was following her tracks in the snow. Sun pushed her sled to its maximum speed, but the larger vehicle was gaining. Suddenly, the ice ahead cracked open, revealing a hidden crevasse. Sun barely managed to stop in time. The security transport wasn't so lucky. Unable to brake quickly enough, it slid toward the edge. At the last moment, the driver jumped clear before the vehicle plunged into the dark gap. Sun looked up to see Tay standing on the other side of the crevasse. The young mammoth had led her to this trap prepared for their enemies. Thank you, Sun said, finding a narrow spot to cross. Now we need to reach the others. By nightfall, Sun had joined the mammoth herds in their hidden valley. Using her translation system, she told them about Moon's plans and Park's betrayal. Hana listened, her wise eyes solemn. Then she made a series of gestures that Sun had never seen before. Other elder mammoths joined in, adding their own movements to what appeared to be a ritual. What are they doing? Sun wondered aloud. Tay nudged her gently and drew a symbol in. The snow, one that Sun recognized from her research. It meant family. They're accepting me, Sun realized with awe, making me part of their herd. The ceremony ended with Hana touching her trunk to Sun's forehead, a blessing and a promise. Whatever came next, they would face it together. As the mammoth settled for the night, Sun checked her portable scanner. Nova extraction forces were mobilizing, using more aggressive weapons. The conflict was about to escalate dangerously. What Sun didn't know was that Park had seen the security transport accident. Realizing how far Director Moon was willing to go, he was beginning to question his choice. And far above Tundra, a Galactic Federation patrol ship had just received Sun's emergency beacon, delayed but finally breaking through Nova Extraction's jamming signals. Help was coming, but would it arrive in time? The hidden valley echoed with the sound of mammoth calls as dawn broke over Tundra. Sun woke from a short, troubled sleep to find the herds already moving. Tay stood nearby, waiting for her with an urgency that needed no translation. "What is it?" Sun asked, quickly gathering her equipment. Tay led her to the high ridge overlooking the valley. From there, Sun could see what had alarmed the mammoths. Nova extraction vehicles were approaching from 3 directions, cutting off the main escape routes. Their sensors had finally located the hidden valley. Among the vehicles, Sun spotted a familiar shuttle, Park's transport. He had led them here. "We need to move," Sun told Hana, who had joined them on the ridge. "Split the herds as we planned. Use the small passes only mammoths can navigate." Hana made a low rumble of agreement and sent signals to the other herd leaders. Within minutes, the mammoths began to move in smaller groups, heading for narrow ravines and ice tunnels where mining vehicles couldn't follow. Sun climbed onto Tay's back, something she had only done once before. The young mammoth moved quickly despite Sun's weight, following the last group toward a steep path leading higher into the mountains. Behind them, Nova extraction forces began to use their sonic weapons. The painful sound echoed across the valley, causing younger mammoths to trumpet in distress. Sun saw several turn back in confusion, their instincts overridden by the disorienting noise. "Keep going," she urged Tay. "We need to get everyone to safety first." They had almost reached the mountain path when a loud crack split the air. Not the sound of ice breaking, but something worse. Weapons fire. Nova Extraction's security teams had started using pulse rifles, firing warning shots to herd the mammoths toward capture nets. "They wouldn't dare," Sun whispered in horror. Shooting at protected species would mean criminal charges. But she knew Director Moon's plan. Without witnesses or evidence, there would be no charges, just a story about dangerous animals that had to be controlled. A familiar voice called her name. Park stood at the base of the path, his face pale with worry. "Sun, stop. They've authorized lethal force against any mammoths that resist capture." Sun urged Tay to halt. "Why are you telling me this? You betrayed us." "I was wrong," Park admitted. "I thought we could save some by compromising, but Moon never intended to protect them. He just wanted my help to find them more easily." "How convenient that you realize this now," Sun said bitterly. "I'm trying to help," Park insisted. "I've sent your research to the Galactic Federation. A patrol ship received your emergency beacon and is on its way, but they won't arrive for hours." Sun looked back at the valley. Most of the mammoths had escaped, but a few were trapped by the mining vehicles, surrounded by security teams with weapons drawn. "We need to buy time," she said. "Distract them until the Federation arrives." Park nodded. "I'll try to delay Moon, make him follow procedures. You get the remaining mammoths to safety." Before Sun could respond, a piercing cry echoed across the valley. She turned to see Tay charging down the slope, back toward the trapped mammoths. Among them was a small calf, separated from its mother in the confusion. "Tay, no!" Sun shouted, but it was too late. The young mammoth raced into the valley, trumpeting loudly to draw attention away from the trapped mammoths. Nova Extraction security teams turned, startled by the sudden charge. Sun ran after Tay, her heart pounding with fear. She heard Park shouting behind her, trying to stop the security teams from firing. Tay reached the trapped group, creating enough confusion for the small calf to slip away. The other mammoths followed, escaping through the gap Tay had created. Director Moon's voice cut through the chaos. "Contain that mammoth. It's the one Dr. Kim has been studying." Security teams surrounded Tay, pulse rifles aimed and ready. Sun pushed through their line, placing herself between the weapons and Tay. "Stop. The Federation is coming." You'll all face charges for harming protected species. Moon stepped forward, his face cold with anger. Dr. Kim, you've become an obstacle to progress. These creatures are just animals, remnants of a failed weapons program. The minerals beneath this ice will change space travel forever. They're sentient beings, Sun argued. They have language, culture, history. They remember who they are and who made them. Memories programmed by the Arcturus Empire, Moon dismissed. You're seeing intelligence where there is only instinct. A security officer approached Moon. Sir, we're picking up a ship entering the atmosphere. Federation markings. Moon's expression hardened. Then we need to finish this quickly. Capture the specimens we have. We can sort out the legal issues later. He turned to a nearby team. Use the heavy stunners. I want that mammoth contained. Sun knew what heavy stunners would do to Tay. The young mammoth's nervous system might never recover. Without thinking, she grabbed a fallen ice pick and rushed toward the nearest sonic emitter. Sun, don't, Park called out. She ignored him, using the pick to damage the emitter's control panel. The machine sparked and died, silencing one source of the painful sound that was disorienting the mammoths. A security officer raised his weapon. Moon held up his hand. Don't shoot her. We don't need that complication. He turned to Sun. Doctor, Kim, this is your final warning. Step away from the mammoth. Sun stood her ground. I'm a Galactic Federation scientist. These creatures are under my protection until their status is officially determined. Your research permit has been revoked, Moon reminded her. You have no authority here. Above them, the sound of engines grew louder. The Federation ship was getting closer. Moon glanced up nervously, then made his decision. Take her into custody. Use the stunners on the mammoth. Two officers moved toward Sun while others aimed their stunners at Tay. Park tried to intervene but was held back. Sun realized she had only one chance to save Tay. She remembered the mammoth greeting ritual, the way they recognized each other as family. With slow, deliberate movements, she raised her arms in the same pattern Hana had shown her. Tay understood. The young mammoth backed away, following the escape route taken by the others. Stop that mammoth, Moon shouted. The security team fired, their stunners. Sun threw herself in front of the beams, taking the full force meant for Tay. The electrical charge coursed through her body, sending her crashing to the icy ground. Through blurring vision, Sun saw Tay escape over the ridge. She heard Park shouting her name, felt cold hands turning her over. Why? Park's voice seemed far away. Why did you do that? Because they're people, Sun whispered. They deserve to live free. The Federation ship landed nearby, medical teams, rushing out. But Sun knew it was too late for her. The stunners had been set to mammoth-level power, far too strong for a human body. As darkness began to close in, Sun heard a familiar sound. The deep, rumbling call of war mammoths. Not just one or two, but hundreds echoing across the valley from the ridges above. Hana had gathered all the herds to witness what was happening. The last thing Sun saw was the Federation officers looking up in awe at the massive creatures standing like sentinels on every ridge and peak surrounding the valley. The mammoths raised, their trunks in unison, making a sound unlike any Sun had recorded, a farewell to one of their own. In the days that followed, several things changed on Tundra. Federation investigators reviewed Sun's research and Park's testimony. Nova Extraction's permits were suspended pending a full review of the war mammoth's status. Park continued Sun's work, though he never achieved the connection she had with the mammoths. He established the Kim Sun Memorial Research Center at the edge of the mammoth territory, dedicated to understanding and protecting the unique species. Director Moon faced charges for authorizing lethal force against potential sentient beings, and Nova Extraction was required to develop new mining techniques that would not disturb mammoth habitats. 1 year after Sun's death, the Galactic Federation officially recognized the war mammoths as a sentient species with full protection under interspecies law. Their territories became protected reserves with limited human access. On the anniversary of Sun's sacrifice, Park watched from a distance as hundreds of mammoths gathered in the valley where she had fallen. Led by Hana and Tay, now fully grown, they performed a ritual that Park's instruments could record but never fully translate, a memory ceremony for the human who had seen them as people when others saw only animals. In the Mammoth's historical memory, kept alive through their complex oral tradition, Sun would always be remembered as the one who lived among them, understood them, and in the end, died for one of their own. In turn, humans would remember her as the scientist who gave her life, to bridge the gap between species, proof that humanity's greatest strength wasn't technology or power, but the capacity to recognize personhood in forms unlike their own.